Hello gardeners, it's the end of a gardening season and today I want to show you 4 types of seeds that are a snap to save. I'm going to show you how to harvest them the same year that you grow them so that you don't have to purchase seeds, you'll have your own to plant for next year. Here we go.
I'm Stace. For me, healthy food and sustainability are totally connected. You can grow it yourself. Nature is generous.
We've had an amazing year growing. It's kind of the end of the growing season. We're moving into late fall, early winter. We're a month to Christmas. Last night at our place it was down to about -5 Celsius. So it is winter, shorter days here in growing zone 8. We're on the west coast of Canada on Vancouver Island. As you can see, there's some PVC hoop houses over on that side that I try to cover up sometimes with some rime. And all 4 types of seeds that we're going to show you that are a snap to save are in this garden bed right here. There's all sorts of food in here that I'm still harvesting. In fact, this morning I made an omelet out of some of the parsley, the chard, the garlic, and the kale that came out of this garden, along with eggs from our chickens. But those aren't the seeds we're gonna save, because these are all ones that you don't have to wait for overwintering of the plant. You get to actually harvest the seeds, the same seed that you grew the plant. So what I'm going to do today in this video is just grab from this garden bed. I'm at the opposite end now of where I was a moment ago with the camera. I'm going to grab each of the 4 types of seeds right off the plant so you see how I'm harvesting them. And then we're going to set up on a little table here on the side and I'll just show you what I do to set them aside and label them and store them so that they're going to be ready to grow for next season. The key to remember with all seed saving that you're doing, first and foremost, no matter what plant you're dealing with, it's got to be super ripe. I mean, from a perspective of eating it, it's overripe because you want the most pregnant, full of energy, vigorous seed possible that's going to store energy and moisture through the winter so that next growing season when you plant it, it's good to go. So you need the biggest, beefiest, most mature seed you can get. That applies with all the seeds we're going to do today and any seeds that you save other than or additional to the seeds that we talk about today. So the first one I'm going to harvest from is these pole beans right here. Now this is going to work with pole beans or bush beans, it doesn't matter. Let's just call it one of the 4 seeds that are a snap to save are beans, because any beans that you grab and save are going to be easy to save for seed for next year. I do have another video on how to grow and harvest dry beans, but these are fresh beans, beans that you'd normally take and you'd eat them with the whole pod intact, but we want to get at the seeds that are inside the pod. These are all Kentucky Wonder pole beans. Let's zoom in close and look at some of the pods and choose the ones that are most plump and ripe and ready to save. Okay, I'm at a couple plants of pole beans right here, and I just want you to see all the varying states of ripeness and readiness or not ripeness and readiness, even though all these plants have no more leaves and they're done for the season. If you look up here closely, these ones here, look at them. Kind of still green, not very big, not very well formed. But now look down here where I'm at. Look at the size of this. I'll just settle the camera in there, pluck this one off. Look at the size of it in relation to my palm. It's absolutely massive. So when we break this open on the table later, we're going to see the size of these seeds. Also on the ground, some of the pods that broke off of the plant are lying on the ground and they're rotting. Now you can see the seeds have totally mushed up. They're totally rotting and gross and sticky and gooey. And these are just going to turn into paste. They're not going to actually grow. But there are some intact seeds that fell down on the ground from split pods as well. But those might grow some volunteer beans that just show up on their own next spring. But what we want is these big beauties that are right here. These are some of the ones that we're going to save and look at the table. So that's the first of the 4 that are a snap to save. Let's gather these and go on to the next one. We've done seed number 1 that's a snap to save is the pole beans, which are just over here. And now look at this, what I've got. They're bright orange, sitting on the ground. You can't even see the plants they came from, but you can see some vines that they came from. Can you guess what they are? Because again, they're way overripe. These are actually cucumbers. They're so overripe. Now, I want you to not be misled. Most things in the melon, squash, zucchini family, you can't save the seeds because they do crazy cross-pollination, and unless the plants are like hundreds of meters or even a kilometer apart, they will cross-pollinate, and squashes and melons and zucchinis will create crazy frankenfood that you'll never figure out next year and you won't want to eat. But cucumbers, though they look and are shaped quite similarly, you can save the seeds and they're a snap to save. So these are very overripe cucumbers. I'm going to save the fattest, plumpest, most overripe ones, and they're going to go on the table with the beans, and we're going to go on and select the easiest number 3 seed that's a snap to save. I wasn't kidding when I told you these were all close together, right? I'm standing right on the cucumbers now and the pole beans are right here, but between those 2 rows down the center of this bed, I had a row of third seed that's a snap to save, potatoes. And not just one variety, but several varieties of potatoes. Now, in this case, the potato plant stalks themselves are completely dry and dead, but there are potatoes all through here. So I'm just gonna back up a little bit and grab a few just to show you, because even though the plants are totally done, the potatoes themselves are still totally insulated and they're looking great. So I'll just bring those up to the camera so you can see that's where they are. These are a white potato that's quite dry, but now I'm gonna drop the camera down a little bit more and put it a little closer to you so that you can see that down here closer, right there, I've got another variety of potato that's white, red, and more moist. The top ones I would never save because they're greenish, but underneath you've got some beauties, and there are so many beautiful potatoes here, just ready to come out of the ground and feed the family, but they're also seeds that are good to save. So we've got the whites and the reds. We're going to gather those and put them on the table next to the beans and the cucumbers, and we'll go on to the fourth and final seed that's a snap to save and grab it and get them all to the table. We are getting into this, guys, the fourth and final seed that's a snap to save. Snap peas, of course. Yes, this is a crazy plant. It's so prolific and vigorous. You can see, even though I'm getting -5 degrees at night and it's a month from Christmas, it is still trying to flower. In fact, if I bring this down to the camera, there, you can see it's still flowering. So amazing. And I've got pea pods forming on it at all different stages of maturity. So I grabbed a few that I would never use to save for seeds. They're too small. They're too flat. They haven't formed big seeds yet. So these would be great to eat still, great for the salads, great for the stir fries. The ultimate pea pod that I want to save is this one right here. Take a look at this beauty, and we'll get him with a few of his friends. It's huge, it's fat, it's bigger than my finger, and that's going to be a gorgeous type of pea pod to save. So we'll gather a few more of these, we'll get them on the table together with the other three, and I'm going to show you what I go through to sort them and to store them so that they're ready for planting in spring. Here we go to that step, guys. Okay, we are at the table. We've got what we collected, the 4 seeds that are a snap to save, the pole beans, the cucumbers, the 2 types of potatoes, and the snap peas. Now, I just want you to see a few of the different things that I think about and consider as I get ready to store the seeds, and also the ones that I choose to not store. So I've purposely arranged these, and I'm going to bring the camera in a little closer to look at them so that you can see the difference between the brown and the green and what's the best and what's the least good or optimal to save. So let's just move in on that. Now you can see that when I have a bean that's on this side that's quite green and I break it open, it's a little less ripe. Let's pop out the seeds so you can see them. I'll get a few. It's a little less ripe. It still itself, as a bean seed, looks a little bit green, right? Now let's contrast that to one of these ones that looks much more brown. This is the most brown one I can see, and when I pull it open, now look at that one. See how much more white it is and much less green? That is going to store much better, way better seed to store. And so if you come back to look at this pile, I would basically divide them right here. This one has flecks of brown and flecks of green on it. I would accept that one. This one has some flecks of brown and flecks of green, and look how freaking big it is. Oh my goodness. But these ones, they're all too green. I'm not going to use these ones. These are the ones I'm going to save. So with these ones off to the side that we're not going to keep, and knowing these ones are beautiful to keep, all I've done is taken a brown paper bag and put on it that they're pole beans and they're Kentucky Wonder variety. So if you have a few different types of beans that you want to save the seeds of, just label them as such. The other nice touch to put on there is the year that you harvested them, or maybe you want to say the year by which you should plant them. If you want to say they're good for 2 or 3 years, the seeds should be fine. And yes, this is the best storage container. If you've got a dry, dark place for your seeds, then a great storage container would be a brown bag. These seed pods still have moisture in them. I don't want to disrupt the life of the seed too vigorously by suddenly just ripping it out of its pod. So I'm going to take it into a dry, dark room in a cupboard, and I'm just going to let it sit like that and let it dry out until it becomes rattly and you can actually hear the seed pods banging around in there. And then I'll pop open the seeds from the pods and let them just be seeds. But for now, I'm just going to let the whole pod dry like that. So that's set aside, and those will be good for a couple of years. And as you can see, when I popped open each pod, there's 6, 8, 10 seeds per. And so I've got like at least 100 seeds here. And those poles that are right behind me, I usually put 2 or 3 seeds at each pole. and that grows a lot of beans. If you want to learn more about pole beans in particular, I've got a great video called How to Grow Pole Beans. Just check it out and you could learn all about that. Now, let's get on to the cucumbers. Okay, let's move straight into cucumber land, and the two little tools I'm going to use are a knife and a strainer. I get a cucumber that's big and fat and plump, and I cut it right down the middle. When it's cut down the middle, it's full of seeds inside, just like that, and I get my strainer. And with my strainer here, I can basically take my fingers, you could take a spoon if this grosses you out, and you just want to squeeze out everything that's in the middle, because that's where all the seeds are. Now if you look at that, it's empty of seeds and it's dripping. Do you see that drip coming off the bottom? So the more I shake that, the more it gives up its seeds. We'll just do that on a couple more, and then I'll show you the next step that's so critical. Okay, so now we've got all this cucumber seed extraction here, and you can see that as I'm doing this, there's lots and lots of moisture coming out the bottom. We'll just shake that for a minute or two. Now that I've shaken all, or most of, I should say, most of the juice out, all I've got is a piece of cardboard that says it's cucumbers and it's a straight 8 variety of cucumbers. So now all you do is put that slurry of seeds out of your strainer and onto here. And now the cardboard will absorb a little bit of the moisture. Evaporation in a cool, dry place will just release most of the moisture. And look at that, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seeds. Oh my goodness. Okay, moving on to potatoes. The seed you plant is the seed you eat, which is the seed you plant. Yes, it's pretty wonderful because that right there, you can eat it, but it's also the seed. You will have noticed when we were in the garden earlier, I didn't pull out a pitchfork, because if you use a pitchfork to harvest your potatoes that you want to store as seeds, there's a possible chance you'll scuff it or mark it on the outside, and that'll damage the skin, and then it won't store well. You have to have a fully intact external epidermis. If you mark it, cut it, scuff it in any way, it won't be good for storage. I don't even use a brush if I'm going to store the potato for seed. I will only use that if I'm taking it in the kitchen to cook it. Now, as I mentioned before, the reds and the whites are very distinct and different potatoes. These are the perfect size for saving seeds, but because they store humidity differently, they're different varieties, I store them differently in different bags. So I simply take a bag that's relevant to the size of the amount I'm going to take, just a brown bag, label on it, red potatoes or white potatoes, or if you know the specific type, it's a russet Burbank or whatever variety it is, just name that if you wish. And in a cool, dry place, your potatoes will do just great. If you want to learn lots more about potatoes, I've got videos about that. Check out my video called How to Cure and Store Potatoes. Okay, let's move on to the fourth and final snap to save seed, snap peas. Here we go. Snap peas are so wonderfully easy to grow. I love the fact that when you are harvesting peas to eat that are snap peas, you get to eat the whole pod and the seed inside. I've done videos just about peas. Please Grow Peas is the name of the video that I most love that I've produced about peas. And so all I'm doing is taking a brown bag that says snap peas on it, and I'm popping all of them in there so that they can dry out. And when the pods have dried out, then I will snap them open when they're all brittle and dry. And from there, the pea seeds will come out and they'll be ready to go. Guys, that's how simple it is. It truly is a snap to save seeds when you do ones just like this, hey? Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching along on this video on YouTube. Please check that notifications bell and subscribe. I want to keep on giving you great resources. Thanks for following along today. See ya.